Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. You have to start before you are ready. See, as much as I make reference to the naivety of people arbitrarily doing things without self reflection, without full comprehension of the dynamics and the intricacies of it, I simultaneously take the opportunity to actually give those people kudos, because those people have learned the art of starting before they are actually ready. You do have to start before you're ready. Why? Otherwise, you would never start. You keep saying, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. I'm getting ready. The subject matter of today is trust. Most people have different interpretation, perspective, without much evidence, reference, or clear explanation of how different types of trust work. For starters, let's truly begin with the 101s. As we go through this, I'm certain you will realize that what certain things you think you already know about trust are flawed. But nonetheless, by virtue of that flaw that you've accepted as a truth, it is in fact what would allow you to see the clarity in comparison to another party who is now newly introduced to even anything regarding trust and its use. But see, that other man or woman who is newly being introduced to the concept of trust and its use also has their own advantage over you, the one now learning over and being reborn based on the prior misinformation. The advantage that man or woman who has never been misinformed, who is an open template, has over you is that they've yet to make up their mind as to what the limits are. So their mind is actually limitless because they don't even know where the bar ends or begins. Those who have a preconceived notion have tried what they think the bar is. But my hope and my intent is to show you that the bar extends far beyond. And the beginning point that you're starting from might just be different than where you ought to be. This applies all across the board, whether one thinks they're a veteran, whether one thinks they're intermediate, or just new to it. A very, very good book. There are many more good books regarding different types of trust, their use, and their comprehension. There are many different theses. There are many different congressional records and congressional law regarding trust. But to start off, this is a very easy to read book. It's only a few pages. It's not more than 100 pages. I think it's about 40 something pages. Name of the book is Effective Substitute for Incorporation. This is the shelf reference at Cornell Library, which act as one as the holders of the book right here. The Declaration of Trust as Effective Substitute for Incorporation. That is the name of this book. A very, very, very informative book. Again, Declaration of Trust as Effective Substitute for Incorporation. The title of the book itself is already letting you know that there's a norm that goes about, which is incorporation. We all know of things league as being a corporation and other entities being creatures of law that are subsidiaries of the United States, its enclaves, etc., by way of the LLCs registered in your state that you have to pay yearly taxes for, or any other type of business, S corp, C corp, partnership, whatever it is. That is incorporation, meaning you are stepped into a jurisdiction whereby there are limits and bounds, and there is a first lien holder and the first interested party that you now have to pay dues to. That's really the summary of incorporation. Now, If you really have a more advanced comprehension of how trust functions, then belief or not, the corporation can actually be used effectively also. Remember, this whole thing about the matrix is about being able to go in and out freely and get done what you need to get done, rather than limiting yourself. And to those who might perceive themselves as a veteran, some of the limits that they have is they think they can't go in and out freely, and that they have to be fixed by this thing or that, which is an advantage that someone coming in newly has. They don't have a fixed perception, one way or the other. It lets you know that incorporation is one, but then there's something else that effectively substitutes this limit that might exist in the realm of incorporation, and that is a trust, synonymous with at law and equity. Again, synonymous with at law and equity. Remember, all these things are meant for you to think from different perspectives and join the practicality of all these words that you've known, or the operation of those laws if you know what they are. The corporation is to trust, as at law is to equity. Corporation is a form of trust in its own, but there's someone else calling the shots outside of you and your own interests. Or if you're going to enforce your own interests, someone else is going to have to give it a green light, and you have no say in it. A trust, on the other hand, is a perfection and extension of incorporation. More so, a perfection of it, whereby you get to call the shots. You get to deal with the attributes of what is and what is not. In other words, more control. Just as much as equity is an extension and perfection of that law. And how do you do it? They give the most powerful jewel to you right off the bat. Just as much as you do an article of incorporation for LLCs or some type of church, well, a declaration is how you begin to trust. And that instrument is one of the most powerful things you will ever do, outside of the minutes, the resolution, and the exhibits, and all the other things that you pass as the governing law of your trust. The declaration is the mother of everything else that is subsequent to it, everything else that comes after it. And just at the introductory stage, the beginning of this book, they give just that to you. But if one just loosely reads this and says, okay, this is the title of the book, let's go and read it, you've just read it like a novel. When in truth, this itself, if you were to really interpret what it means, it would be more than all the pages that's inside this book. And this is just one page we've just been speaking of so far. That by itself lets you know the intricacies involved in this. But a step at a time does it. So the important question now becomes, how do you start a trust? Declare it. The strongest point as to how to initiate a trust is given to you right at the beginning of the book itself. How do you begin a trust? Declare it. Make it known. The question now then transitions to, how do you know what to declare? In order for you to know what to declare as a trust, which you intend to use as an effective substitute for incorporation, what you intend to declare as a form of immediate control of yours, there are different types of it. There are different types of trusts. All trusts are not made equal. If you will declare a specific type of body of instrument like trust, it has to be as specific as possible, because the limits of the type of control that you would have over that trust and how far you can send that trust to do things Like money, you will send money as a messenger to do things, as a tool to accomplish things. A trust is the exact same way. And the limit of how much you can use it and send it to accomplish things is delineated within the declaration itself. Just as much as on the face of any given type of currency, the limits of its worth and value is on its face. If you take $100 Federal Reserve, on that one certificate, that guy's face called George Washington, it declares in its face the limits of how much message you can send it to accomplish. It says on its face 100. If you take $5 Federal Reserve, it has a declaration on its face as to the limits of its capability and capacity. If you take a $1 Federal Reserve, you take a 10, 20, etc. The limits of what it's capable of doing and how far it can reach and how far you can send it as a messenger to do certain things is declared on its face. You, the one who intends to create a trust, must declare the extent and the power of that trust on its face. Just like there are different types of bills and different types of currencies, there are then different types of trusts. The next question now is, well, what do you want to do? Because what you want to do will let you know what type of trust you want to declare. We'll leave that here. And even if you think you know what an express trust is, chances are most people are just following the crowd, which is well. Sometimes it's meant to be like that. It's meant to be kept like that. Because just as all trusts are not made equal, all men are not created equal. And the trust being a creature of law, whatever state of mind the man and woman who come together and create that body of trust is, whatever state of mind they have, is the limits and the power of that trust, regardless of what they label it. Whatever state of mind the man and woman who come together and create that body of trust is, whatever state of mind they have, is the limits and the power of that trust, regardless of what they label it. Whatever state of mind the man and woman who come together and create that body of trust is, whatever state of mind they have, is the limits and the power of that trust, regardless of what they label it. And because information is always interpreted by its recipient the way they want, we'll leave this here on this YouTube platform, and the rest we will be speaking of on Patreon. But for the basics, there it is right there. It truly is just that simple. While there's complexities to it, there's simultaneously simplicity to it. And the simplicities, which will lead to how complex you can make it based on what you want to do. Because remember, a trust is a creature of law, just like zip code is a creature of law, just like as legas is a creature of law, just like any other medium is a creature of law. The trust also is. And that creature that you are created as its creator, aka settler, grantor, only has the limits and the confines of the capacity that you have.